Okay, let's just dive right into this. We're talking about a moment that is absolutely going in the history books, something that has never, ever happened before in American politics, and it's completely shaken things up.
You've probably seen the headlines everywhere. For the first time in, well, ever, a former president of the United States has been arrested and charged with crimes. It's created this absolute storm of questions, political drama, and frankly, a lot of confusion. So what's really going on here? Let's break it all down.
The whole story really starts with this one number, 34. That's exactly how many felony counts former President Donald Trump is facing. Not one, not two, 34.
Now get this, each one of those charges could carry a maximum sentence of 4 years. You do the math, and that adds up to a staggering potential of 136 years. Now, of course, that's a maximum, but it really shows you just how serious this is. So, how on earth did we get here?
To really understand these charges, we've got to rewind the clock. Way back, actually, long before the presidency. The seeds of this case were planted in a decade-old story that revolves around a pretty shadowy media tactic known as catch and kill.
So let's look at the timeline. It all kicks off back in 2006 with an alleged affair between Donald Trump and the adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Now fast forward 10 years to 2016. Trump's in the middle of his presidential run, and Daniels decides she wants to sell her story. And here's the crucial part. Just 1 month before the election, a payment of $130,000 is set up to buy her silence.
And that payment was part of what prosecutors are calling a catch-and-kill scheme. So how does that work? Well, it's pretty simple. A friendly media company, in this case the National Enquirer, buys the exclusive rights to a story that could be really damaging. They pay the person with the story, but then they just sit on it. They kill it. The source can't take the story anywhere else, and poof, it's gone.
And here's the thing. Prosecutors say the Stormy Daniels payment wasn't just a one-off deal. They claim it was a pattern. You had another woman, Karen McDougal, paid $150,000 for her story about an alleged affair. Even a Trump Tower doorman was paid $30,000 to bury a story about an alleged illegitimate child. It was a whole system, they argue, designed to keep negative stories out of the press.
But this is where the story takes a really sharp turn, because the actual crime Trump is charged with, well, it's probably not what you're thinking. And this is where the case gets truly fascinating from a legal perspective.
Okay, so here's the most important point to understand. Having an affair is not a crime. And believe it or not, paying someone hush money to keep quiet isn't illegal in the United States either. So if none of that is the crime, then what on earth led to this historic arrest?
Let's be crystal clear about this. This case is not about the affair. It's not even about the hush money itself. The alleged crime is all about falsifying business records. In plain English, that means lying on official company documents to hide what that money was really for.
So here's how it allegedly went down. The $130,000 was first paid to Stormy Daniels by Trump's lawyer at the time, Michael Cohen. Later, when Trump paid Cohen back, that reimbursement was supposedly logged in the company's books as a legal expense. But the prosecution says that was a flat-out lie. They argue it wasn't a fee for legal services, it was a payback for hush money.
And that one alleged lie was supposedly repeated over and over again, and that's how you get to 34 felony counts. The prosecution is pointing to 11 different invoices, 11 different checks and stubs, and 12 different entries in the company's main ledger, all allegedly part of this cover-up.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Falsifying business records. That doesn't sound like something that could put a former president in jail. And usually, you'd be right. In New York, it's just a misdemeanor, a pretty minor offense. But, and this is the absolute key to the entire case, it gets bumped up to a serious felony if you do it to hide another crime.
So that bump up is the real heart of the legal battle. You can see the clash coming, right? So let's take a look at what the prosecution and the defense are actually arguing.
On one side, you have the prosecution, led by the Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. They argue that the other crime was an attempt to illegally influence the 2016 election. Their theory is that by burying these stories right before people voted, Trump's team was trying to keep damaging information from voters, and that, they say, could violate election laws. On the other side, you've got the defense, led by Trump himself, with a totally different story. They're arguing this has nothing to do with the law and everything to do with politics. They're calling it a witch hunt that's just designed to hurt him politically, and they're pointing to the judge and his family as proof of bias. There's also this really interesting technical legal fight going on. The defense is saying, hey, wait a minute, there's a 5-year time limit on this kind of crime, and these events are older than that. But the prosecution has an answer for that. They say New York law actually pauses the clock when a defendant lives outside the state. And since Trump was living in the White House, they argue the clock never ran out.
So with the battle lines drawn so clearly, what happens next? This is where the legal system crashes right into political reality, and honestly, the road ahead is pretty uncertain for everyone.
Here are the key things you need to know. First, and this one surprises a lot of people, even if he's convicted, it would not legally stop Donald Trump from running for president again in 2024. Second, don't hold your breath for a quick ending. A final verdict could take many, many months. And finally, the political impact is a total wild card. Some people think it could actually help his campaign by firing up his supporters.
And all of that leaves us with the massive question at the very heart of this historic moment. Is this a political prosecution, a witch hunt designed to stop a candidate from running? Or is this a necessary act of accountability, a moment that proves that no one, not even a former president, is above the law? The answer to that question is going to shape American politics for a long, long time.